Well, here I am, your little ray of sunshine, and yes, we're going to be talking about recommendations. When you want a plumber, an estate agent, a solicitor, you might ask around. Why? Because you're looking for recommendations. And why do you want those? Because you want some sort of proof that the person or the company can actually do what they say they can do. Why do you think there are places like Trustpilot or Trusted Trader, TripAdvisor? Recommendations not only help you to sell, but they also help the buyer to make the buying decisions. I mean, how many of you have ever bought something online, but before you've clicked the add to basket, you've checked out the reviews, you've checked out how many stars it's got? So how do your clients and your candidates know how many stars you've got? How do they know that you can actually do what you say you can do? Now, I know I'm referring to them as recommendations on here. Some of you might call them testimonials. In other words, examples, proof, evidence that backs up that you can actually do what you say you can do. And I think having recommendations are brilliant, particularly when the client says to you, yeah, but why should I use you? And that's when you whip out your bucket of proof, where you can demonstrate that you have delivered either with similar companies or on similar roles, similar locations. So it's not just your voice of the recommendation, it's your clients and your candidates' voices. Yes, get recommendations from both clients and candidates. Look, we know that they can help us with clients and candidates, selling our service to them, but they're also good when you're not having a good time of it. You know, let's face it, sometimes it does hit the fan in recruitment, and sometimes you maybe had a few deals fall out, a few things that aren't quite going the way you planned, and you start to doubt yourself. Well, go back and read some of the previous recommendations. And actually what it does do, it gives you that nice warm feeling, and it just sort of reinforces the fact that actually you are bloody good at what you do, and there's even people in your marketplace that have told you so. Why? Because you've got it in writing. Yes, in writing. I know that there's opportunities on LinkedIn for people to tick a box and endorse you for skills, but I think it's so much better when a client and or a candidate have taken the time out to write something that is specific to you and how you've helped them. So, when should you ask for recommendations? Now, it would be easy for me to say every time you make a placement. You know, ask the client, ask the candidate every single time. But do you know what? There's always going to be exceptions. Maybe you're working through one of those dreaded things called portals and you don't have any direct access to the decision makers. Maybe this is a contractor or temp that you've placed several times in as many months, and you're not really going to ask for recommendations on every single booking that you fill. Maybe you place with this client regularly. Maybe you've got volume business with them, a managed service, in which case the recommendation that you ask for will probably come after several placements and not after every single one. Maybe it's a one-off. Maybe it's slightly outside of your specialization and you're never likely to go there again. So why is it then when I ask recruiters how many placements they've made and then how many recommendations they have, the numbers don't match? Well, I've just given you some of the exceptions, but some people, maybe they're embarrassed, don't know when to ask for them, or they don't know how to ask for them. Well, look, let's deal with that straight away. First of all, don't be embarrassed to ask. Just think about what you have helped the clients and the candidates achieve, what you've achieved for them. They should both now be extremely happy. So why wouldn't they want to endorse you or the service that you've just provided them? And remember what these recommendations can do for you. They can help you to raise your profile, help you to secure new clients, new jobs, new candidates, and of course, reinforce your own self-belief that actually you are flipping brilliant. So when do you ask? Well, of course, let the candidates settle in to their new role. I wouldn't call them at 9:10 on their first day. Don't ask them within the first 24 hours. I would say leave it a week or so. But it's not an exact science. I think sometimes you need to use that good old-fashioned gut feel of when would be inappropriate, because it depends upon your relationship, how smoothly the process has gone, and how happy they are with your service. Because if it's been an absolute ball ache for both parties, then they might not think it's been a very pleasant experience. It's been quite a difficult process. So personally, I would probably leave it a couple of weeks. So then, how do you ask for the recommendation. See, I've always found that the nodding dog technique is quite good to use here. Basically, you line up a whole load of questions to which you know the answer is going to be yes. So you might say something like, are you happy with how Catherine is working out for you? Oh, yes. Were you happy with the standard and choice of developers that I provided you with? Oh, yes. And are you happy with the amount of contact we had throughout the process? Oh, yes. This is me doing my Churchill dog impersonation, by the way. And then you just follow that up with, well, on that basis, would you be willing to put something in writing to that effect? Effectively, they've just said, yes, that was really good. Yes, I really like that. Yes, it was fantastic. Well, then why wouldn't they then endorse you, recommend you? Or you could simply ask, as you know, I do specialize in this area and I'm always looking to help other clients to fill their challenging roles. Would you be prepared to provide a written recommendation of our service? That's it. Just ask, don't get. What's the worst thing that could happen? And of course, you can use the same line of questioning with your candidates. As you know, I'm always looking to help other people secure their next new role. Tell me, would you be willing to? And just ask the question again. Now, if the client has testimonials and recommendations or case studies on their website, you can always make reference to that fact and link that to you asking for the recommendation. You might say something like, oh, I've noticed on your website that you have many recommendations, and this has actually helped David with his decision-making process and has helped him to decide to actually work for you. We also place a lot of value and emphasis on recommendations and wanted to ask, would you be willing to write a recommendation for me? Now, I did touch upon it earlier on, but obviously the relationship you have with your client and your candidate will determine when and how you actually ask for these recommendations. And of course, you could go via an email or a message, do whatever is your preference, but I think it's best to test the water by doing it verbally over the phone. So look, recommendations. Just think about the value that they can bring to you and go out there and ask for them. So workout-wise, go back over the past couple of months and look at what placements you've made, how many happy people you've created out there, and go back and ask for some recommendations. Make a diary note now that every time you make a placement, that a week or two later, you go back and ask for a recommendation. And use your recommendations on social media posts, on your website, add them to your LinkedIn profile, add them to your bucket of proof when you're out there pitching for business. Good luck out there, and if you've liked what you've heard on here, drop me a recommendation.